Hello everyone and welcome to Cinderful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Today's video, we've got a getting started with Age of Sigmar 3rd edition video for you, and today we're going to be looking at the Ogor Mawtribes, and in particular, the Gutbuster part of the army. This is the foot ogre part of the army, not the woolly mammoth and murder cow part of the army, but the ogres on foot, trudging their way across the mortal realms, eating and killing everything in their way. And so in this video, what we aim to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the army, what it does on the tabletop and how it works, and then we're going to show you some units you can grab to start off your army, and then how you can expand upon them with some other units available to this particular part of the army. And then at the end, we'll do a little sample army list showing you how to put it all together, and so you can start thinking of your own list, or indeed, if you want to, just straight up copy our list. And so, first of all, let's talk about what this army does. So, for starters, ogres in general just have lots of wounds. This is an army of almost entirely monstrous infantry, and so all the models generally have 4 wounds or more. There are some exceptions, and we'll definitely talk about them because they are really useful, but there's a lot of wounds in the army regardless, because either you've got these really wound dense units like ogres, or you've got other things that have lots of smaller models with lots of wounds in there. The ogres are hard hitting. They just like to get in, have a fight, and do lots of damage, and they're pretty simple to play. Like, I think definitely one of the best things about ogres is the fact that they are so simple to play. They really just win on a constant, can you do the damage, can you not do the damage, and that's ogres to a T. It's a really fun army to play and play against because of it. You will never have people who don't like playing against your ogre army, especially if you're playing Gutbusters, because it is just fun to play against. Ogres in general want to be charging. They are good on the charge. They get some cool rules that help them do more damage on the charge. They get mortal wounds when they charge. They get to roll an amount of dice every time they charge equal to the roll of the charge roll, and do mortal wounds to enemy units. Depending on what size they are, depends on what is required to trigger those mortal wounds. Ogres also have a really cool rule called hungry or eating as well, when they get 2 inches extra of movement if they're not in combat, and they get an extra 2 bravery if they are in combat. Both pretty solid rules. And so that's pretty much ogres to a T. I mean, they are just simple. There's not a lot to them. They like going and smashing. They've got good war scrolls. They like fighting. It's a fun army to play. And so, where to start with the Ogor Mawtribes? Well, for starters, I recommend picking up an Ogor Mawtribes Tyrant as your first pick. Now, this is, for starters, a fantastic model, but here's a really solid beat stick of a model. This guy will just do a lot of damage. He's only on a 60mm base. Now, he will hit like most monsters in the game. So for starters, he's got his Thunder Mace, which is 3 attacks at 3s and 3s, Ren 2, damage 3. He's then got the Beast Skewer Glaive at 2 attacks, 3s and 3s, Ren 1, damage D3, plus an extra 1 point of damage from his Gulping Bite as well. And he's got some Ogre Pistols there to do a little bit of range damage as well. Beast Skewer Glaive as well, when it targets a hero or monster and it gets a hit roll of a 6, it has a damage characteristic of D6 rather than D3, so he is going to go toe-to-toe with other monsters. He gets to choose a big name, and this is really cool because it's like a free little artifact on him that you can use to sort of make your Tyrant do what you want to do. You've got things from increasing his wounds to getting +1 to wound rolls when he charges, adding a bit to his save, giving him extra movement, and a bunch of other rules as well. It's a really cool rule. Like I said, it's like a free artifact on your Ogre Tyrant straight away. This means when you're playing games with multiple heroes, your Ogre Tyrant might actually not need an artifact because he's already got this sort of doing the job of what a lot of artifacts do. Now he's also got the Thunder Mace rule as well, where if an unmodified hit roll for an attack made with a Thunder Mace is a 6, it inflicts a mortal wound in addition to any normal damage, and if the target unit has 3 or more models, an unmodified roll of a 6, the attack does D3 mortal wounds instead of 1. However, all that damage aside, I think the coolest thing about this guy is Bully of the First Degree. His amazing command ability. So he gets to use this on any ogre unit. He does D3 mortal wounds to them, literally just slapping them across the ear, being an utter bully to them, and they are immune to battle shock for the rest of the game. This is absolutely amazing for a rule. Now, this targets any ogre unit, or rather any Gutbusters unit in the army, so it's a really, really solid rule. It just does so much for the army. And so, speaking of units that are going to pair really well with him, we've got Ogre Gluttons. These are a great unit. They come in 6 models to start with 4 wounds. That means you've got 24 wounds in an Ogre Glutton unit just to start off. They are a pure battle line unit. So, 24 wounds on a 5-up save, that's pretty solid. Now, my preferred loadout for these is definitely with 2 clubs or blades on them. Paired clubs or blades, they get roll of 6 to hit, does 2 hits instead of 1. Rolling to wound for both of them is pretty sweet. They do have the ability to take Iron Fist instead of one of the weapons. They lose the exploding 6s rule, but they do gain the ability to do some mortal wounds back. But in general, Ogres are going to want to be offensive. You're not looking to be defensive with a unit of Gluttons. Go in and do the offense. They've got a couple of cool rules there as well in their sort of command models, where the Lookout Nobbler gives them a 6-up ward against ranged attacks, and they can also get some extra bravery, and can also reroll charge rolls for this unit whilst you've got a Beast Skull banner in there. And the Bellowers also subtract 1 from the bravery of enemy units around them as well, which is pretty solid. So a good all-round unit. Now the other thing I recommend picking up is a unit that is not in fact Ogres, and that is Nobblers. Nobblers are a cool little unit you get access to with the Ogor Mawtribes, and they fulfill a role of chaff. Now, your ogres are going to want to be doing the damage. Nobblers allow you to set up at the start of the game and sort of protect your ogres, making sure that you can get the charge, your opponent's not going to alpha strike you and ruin your ability to get the charge and do that extra damage through the mortal wounds you can do on a charge. Screeching Horde as well, so you've got extra attacks with melee weapons with these guys. I mean, it really is worthless, most of their attacks. But they do have some cool range damage. 20 of them are going to put out 20 shots at 8 inch, and for, they can potentially get rid of screens for you as well. They can fulfill a variety of different roles, which is really nice. They're just a strong, useful unit. They're also great at holding objectives. They are a Gutbuster unit, so that bully of the first degree from the tyrant ability works on your unit's Nobblers. So you can kill 3 of them, and your opponent's actually going to have to go and remove the other 17 out of a unit or more if you've used reinforcement points on them to get rid of them. They can be really strong and really useful on the tabletop. But where do we go to expand from here? Well, first of all, we've got Lead Belchers. These are a great little unit. They've got some extra rend on your Gluttons, and a lot of people sort of talk about Lead Belchers and Gluttons being the 2 sort of units to fight for that place in the army. I do prefer Gluttons nearly all the time, but I think Lead Belchers definitely have a place within the army. They've got a little bit of shooting damage. They can definitely do quite a bit of shooting damage if they don't move, but they are a useful unit to have around. Now, the next thing to talk about is Butchers, Slaughtermasters, and Firebellies. Now, Firebellies technically aren't a Gutbuster unit. They are their own separate thing, but they fit in better with the Gutbusters than they do with the Beastclaw Raiders, so we put them here. And so, these are your different wizards. For me, I think the Slaughtermaster is my favourite one. He's got the ability to draw from his cauldron and do some cool things. In particular sub-factions, he can do it twice, and he can potentially give out +1 to hit, which is really useful for your army. Maybe with the changes, we've got some play in the Butchers and Fibers, but I do think the Slaughtermaster is my favourite one. Iron Guts and Man Eaters take up our elite troop options for the army. Iron Guts doing a tremendous amount of damage. They've got damage 3 weapons, which is really cool. And Man Eaters perform a much more sort of, tactical role. Iron Guts are just straight up going to be your heavy hitters, while Man Eaters can have some ranged weapon to do some pistol shots around the flanks, do a little bit of damage, be a great sort of versatile elite unit, while Iron Guts are straight up just fighting. And the last pieces you've got are your Iron Blasters and Scrap Launchers. These are artillery pieces. There are some sub-factions and some ways to really make these units work. Iron Blasters in particular work really great in some of the particular sub-factions that you can get, like the Underguts, and Scrap Launchers are pretty good when versing Hordes. So if you've got a sort of Horde-focused meta, a Scrap Launcher is definitely a great investment for you. But both these can be quite swingy, as you would expect from sort of destruction artillery pieces in general, but they are great looking models nonetheless. And so here we have a little sample army list we've put together to show you how you can build your own Ogor Mawtribes army. Now, we've gone for Meat Fist, which, hear me out, it's not necessarily the greatest one, but I think for this starting army, Meat Fist just shows you a lot of what Ogor Mawtribes can do, and you can definitely go explore other avenues of Ogor Mawtribes after this. Realm, we've gone Gur. I mean, ogres fighting a bunch of monsters makes sense to me. Grand strategy, we've gone hold the line because we've got 2 battle line units here with a lot of wounds in them. I definitely think that's a great grand strategy. And Bloodthirsty for a free rerollable charge is definitely one we're going to want to try for our triumph. Now we've got our Tyrant. He's going to be our general, and he's going to have Food for Thought, which is going to be his command trait, where at the start of the hero phase, if your general is eating, he gains an additional command point. So if he's in combat, you get a command point, which is really cool. And then he's got the Gut Plate of Gur, which is a really cool artifact to give him reroll save rolls of 1 for attacks that target him. Now we've combined this with the big name Fate Seeker, which gives him a +1 save. What's really cool about this drops him to a 3-up, so he can have a 3-up or rerolling ones as a really solid armor save. He's going to stick around for a long time. For battle line, we've got 6 Ogre Gluttons, and we've got 4 Lead Belchers, and then we've got 20 Nobblers as our other unit. Now, the reason we've gone for Meat Fist, I think it just sort of shows you what Ogres can do in general. Fleshy Stampede is you roll an additional dice when we do the charge roll to do some mortal wounds. It's simple, it's nice, it's showing you what Ogre's rule is all about. It's just a nice, cool little buff. But then we've got the Unstoppable Feast, where we get an extra attack on the gulping bites of our Ogre Gluttons if we use this. So just some extra attacks in there. It's a really simple Ogre army list, this one. There's definitely some more techie builds you can do, but I think for Gutbusters this is a great way to start and just sort of learn what all your units can do. Now the army is wrapped up in a battle regiment, which means it's going to be a 1-drop. We're at 720 points out of 750, 30 points cheaper than, you know, what we can be, so there's a good chance we are going to get that triumph to get the bloodthirsty rerollable charge we want. No reinforcement units, no allies, but we are at 68 wounds, which is a lot of wounds our opponent is going to have to chew through in this army. We've definitely got, you know, the Nobblers to hold objectives will be a good screen. We've got the Gluttons and the Lead Belchers, which is just going to take a lot of punishment. And that Tyrant is going to be hard to put down. If you're playing with Ogor Mawtribes, in particular Gutbusters, in the new edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar, let us know in the comments below how you're going and how you're finding them. It'd be great information for any new player coming and looking to get Gutbusters in the new edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar. Well, that's the end of the video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you'd like to, you can come over and chat more with us here at Sinful Gaming and our fine little community over on Discord. You'll find a link to that Discord in the description of the video. Lastly, we'd like to give a shout out to everyone who helps support the channel via Patreon and YouTube members. And if you'd like to help support the channel via Patreon or YouTube members, you can do so by one of the links in the video's description once again. But a special shout out to all our patrons: Christian Weir, James, Soren, Chaos Spawn, AJC, Kenny Lyle, Outer and Shop First, Andrew Bowen, Nathan Fee, The Rising Ape, Cure Dynamic, Agu, Anthony B, and Dynat226. And another special shout out to our YouTube members: Greenridge Gaming, Kenton Young, Steve T, The Real Zeop, Chris Wallace, Turo12, Vinny, Lock Lorick, Matt Mollin, Becca Kinski Groupie, and the Johnny84. And lastly, a definite special shout out first of all to Lady Witchfox Art, who does all the amazing artwork for the channel, and to Xmorphic, who does all the background work for our Discord server, keeping everything there running smoothly, because I am completely computer illiterate. Thank you very much. But that's it for the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe again. Stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now.